Hi guys, welcome. And who that? Who that but the Saints themselves? I'm here to cover the Week 10 game between the New Orleans Saints as we travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. And the Steelers dominated us. Final score 20-10. I didn't think we could have a performance as bad as we did last week against the Ravens, but leave it up to our bless you boys to give us another awful awful performance. I don't even know what to say about this one. I mean, this is one that, you just want to forget about. So why am I doing a video about it? Well, I've done a video about every game, and I guess I'm going to finish the season covering every game. And this is the low point in the season, I think, for the Saints. After that terrible display against the Ravens in the Superdome, we go to Pittsburgh and just get stomped. Uh, Everything was bad. I guess the defense played slightly better than the offense. The offense was awful, and the defense was pretty bad considering the competition. Let's pull up these god awful stats. Andy Dalton, 17 of 27, 174 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. He also fumbled twice. He recovered both fumbles. Both interceptions were plays where the receiver had a chance to catch the ball and didn't. I've heard it described as two awful interceptions. I guess when you're throwing a deep ball to Kevin White, it's awful situation. But another one went off of Landry's hand, so that was picked off. So Taysom Hill had one pass; it was incomplete. Not much going for the passing game against the Steelers defense, who was pretty bad against the pass up until this get right game for them against the Saints. Another thing that Steelers couldn't do is run the ball, and they did a great job of that. And once again, we didn't have a running game at all. 15 total running plays for the Saints. I think 15 is what we had last week against the Ravens. This is 2 weeks in a row where we're not running the ball. The production was awful. Kamara, 8 carries for 26 yards. Jordan Howard, 1 carry, 1 yard. Taysom Hill had 3 carries for 1 yard. So that's 4 touches for Hill. It's not going to do it. It's not going to cut it. 8 touches for Kamara through on the ground. He also had 3 catches. So 11 total touches for Kamara. Once again, same thing as last week. Not enough touches for Kamara, not enough touches for Hill. Andy Dalton scrambled 3 times for 1 yard. I don't know how that's possible. 15 carries, 29 yards for this team, an average of 1.9. So even if we'd have ran the ball 4 straight times, we would have got a first down. Yeah, the Steelers ran the ball 43 times for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns, an average of 5 yards a carry. So once again, we got our asses whipped. On both sides of the ball at the line of scrimmage. But offensively, without our starting center, without our starting left guard, and then we lost our starting left tackle in the game. And I don't know what quarterback in NFL history could have had success behind that offensive line. And injuries are part of the game, right? So you have to be a good enough team to have enough depth to cover your losses. And yeah, we've got a lot of undrafted guys as backup offensive linemen, low-round guys, and guys that really haven't turned a corner yet. And yeah, that's what we have. I'm going to talk more about the salary cap at the end of this video. Let's talk about these receiving stats. Tight end Juwan Johnson, 5 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown. He was targeted 7 times. Chris Olave was targeted 5 times. He had 3 catches for 40 yards. Took a hard hit in the game, but came back. Jarvis Landry finally saw the field again. He was targeted 6 times. He had 3 catches for 37 yards. One of those targets that was not a completion was the drop that resulted in an interception. Tight end Adam Troutman had 3 targets, 2 catches, 22 yards. Alvin Kamara, 3 catches, 19 yards on 4 targets. Rashid Shaheed was targeted once. He caught it for 12 yards. And of course, Kevin White, who was targeted but did not catch it. Instead, it led to an interception. White was targeted twice in the game with no catches. So altogether, we managed 186 yards. Wow. Dalton was sacked twice. We ran 45 plays. We ran 45 plays last week. We ran 45 plays this week. That's awful. They ran 79 plays, and we ran 45 plays. That's embarrassing. We made the red zone once and scored a touchdown. We were penalized 10 times for 74 yards. They were penalized 3 times. Let's talk about our defensive woes here. We only allowed 20 points. They had 379 total yards. I guess it could have been a lot worse, but not a lot worse when it comes to how they ran the ball. 43 carries, 217 yards. And your rookie Kenny Pickett was woefully inaccurate the entire game. It's 18 of 30 for 199 yards passing. He was sacked 6 times. Yes, our defense got 6 sacks. Probably should have had 10. But what can you do when Najee Harris is gaining 5 yards a carry? Kenny Pickett is scrambling for almost 7 yards a carry. George Pickens ran the ball twice for 11.5 yards a carry. And this backup, Jaylen Warren, averaged over 4 yards a carry. Jaylen Warren, the unnamed unknown, that's when Jim Henderson used to call the games. He would get so excited, even if it was the other team doing something good, and he was always screaming the name of someone you never heard before. In this case, it would have been, "This is Jaylen Warren. This is some unnamed unknown. This is some team that no matter how awful they play, playing the Saints is a get-right game." We end up with P.J. Williams at safety. Marcus May didn't play. P.J. Williams had 11 total tackles. Of course he did. Finds his way back on the field. He's out of position. Demario Davis, 8 total tackles, 1 for a loss. Malcolm Roach had 7 total tackles and a sack. Tyrann Mathieu had 7 total tackles, a tackle for a loss. Caden Ellis had 7 total tackles, including a sack. Paulson Adebo had 6 tackles when he was making tackles. Carl Granderson had 6 tackles, including a half a sack. Peyton Turner had 5 total tackles. Cam Jordan had 5 total tackles. He had a pass defensed. He had a half a sack. Passanio had 3 total tackles, including a sack. David Onyemata had 3 total tackles, including a sack. Contavious Street had 3 tackles. Zach Bond had 3 total tackles. J.T. Gray had 2 tackles. Shai Tuttle had 2 tackles. Chris Harris Jr. had a tackle, a sack, and a pass defensed. Overall, the defensive numbers could have been a lot worse, but I'm looking at the competition here, and I got to say, Dennis Allen called an awful game. We had so many missed tackles that, I don't even know if they kept count. Everybody got in on missing tackles. Nobody wanted to pull the guy down at the line of scrimmage. Maybe the game was called better, and with better performance, it wouldn't have felt that way. But when you allow a really bad offense to control the ball 39 minutes, you only have the ball 21 minutes. And yeah, you allow them to score 10 points in the fourth quarter. That's really putting it together as a defense. There's a common theme in these games. For the Saints, we don't score a lot of points in the first half, and we allow a lot of points in the second half. Oh, this game, we didn't score anything in the second half. We managed 10 points in the second quarter, tied the game 10-10, and we just let them beat us up in the second half. And the only reason they didn't score in the third quarter is because they missed 2 field goals. We had a total of 10 first downs. They had 28. They had 28 first downs. We had 10. We got one of those first downs via penalty. They had 28 first downs, 6 of them by penalty. Thank you, referees. They converted 9 third downs out of 17 attempts, 9 of 17. We were 3 of 12. That's the worst that I've ever seen the Saints. Last week we were 3 of 11, and I thought that was pretty bad. On special teams, we were okay. Gillikin averaged 51 yards a punt. He had a long of 62. We finally downed one inside the 10-yard line where you'd hope to push the team 3 and out, but instead they marched all the way down the field. They got out of that bind real fast. On Gilligan's 5 punts, it was 259 yards. 2 of them were down inside the 20. One of them was a touchback. Lutz was 1 of 1 on field goals. And Shaheed had a pretty productive kick return day. 4 returns for 93 yards, an average of 23 yards a return. He had a long of 31. This is a lot better than what we've been seeing lately, but still nothing to really affect the game much. Overall, I gotta say, awful. Okay, so that's my review of the game. I hope you enjoyed it, but I am going to say a few more things about this team now and about the salary cap and stuff like that. So, Dennis Allen is not a good head coach. I expect after what we saw on offense against the Ravens, with the lack of running game, that would have been an emphasis in this game, and it wasn't. We had a 3rd and 1, and we ran the ball with Kamara into a stacked box. And then on 4th and 1, we did a quarterback keeper with Andy Dalton. Now, 3rd and 1 used to be our bread and butter. We were the best in the league at converting 3rd and 1s. And of course, Taysom Hill was the man doing that for us. And obviously, Dennis Allen has too much faith in Pete Carmichael because when you only run the ball 15 times against the Ravens, you would think that Pete Carmichael would do a better job in the very next game, but he doesn't. And obviously, Dennis Allen doesn't know how to motivate his coaches. Maybe he's so ignorant when it comes to offense that he just trusts Pete Carmichael, knows what he's doing when he calls for a quarterback sneak and it's Andy Dalton and not Taysom Hill. What was wrong with Taysom Hill? He had 4 touches in the game. That's not going to cut it. I don't care if he only gained 1 yard on 3 carries. He should have at least 6 to 10 carries. You break one for 60 yards, you look like a genius, Pete Carmichael. You possess the ball longer. You're not going to win a game on the back of Andy Dalton. We shouldn't be throwing the ball 30 times and running the ball 15 times, not converting 3rd downs, but yet you're still throwing to people like Kevin White. No targets or attempts, no catches for Traquan Smith, no catches for Marcus Callaway. Were they even in the game? You know, just awful, awful. Pete Carmichael is a liability. I don't know if he designs good plays and he's just making mistakes on game day as far as the ebb and flow of a game. I don't know if he needs Sean Payton's input right now, but yeah, he's not doing it. When your strength is running the ball and you refuse to run the ball, I don't care who you're playing. I don't. No, this team would struggle if we were in the AFC North for sure. We would struggle in the AFC North. But, that's how this team is built. We're supposed to be strong up front. We have a banged up offensive line. We have a inconsistent defensive line. I mean, allowing that many yards rushing 2 weeks in a row, 188, and then now 217 against a team that like Pittsburgh that couldn't run the ball, an offense like Pittsburgh that couldn't move the ball, rookie quarterback. So the issue, of course, with injuries is when people get hurt, you have to put in your backups. Your backups aren't as good, or they'd be starting. And because of the way the salary cap's structured, you only have so much money to play with. Well, player contracts and the deal the players have with the league, tying the salary cap to the network television revenue contracts and stuff. It's to me there's a weakness here. There, I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this or not, but this is a hot take from me, and I've always felt this way because for the last 15, 16 years under Sean Payton and Drew Brees, we had we kind of saw this come to fruition, and with New England when they had Tom Brady, the same. Uh, at one point, Drew Brees could have left the Saints and got paid $30, $35 million a year. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. His contract was up. Anybody in the league would have loved to have had him, and they would have paid him whatever it would have taken to get him. There was a time when Drew Brees was actually a hot commodity, and he agreed to sign with the Saints for $25 million a year. And the reason why is because he knew if he was paid $35 million a year, he wouldn't have an offensive line. He wouldn't have receivers to throw to. He wouldn't have a good defense. So when you sign these players to these huge contracts and they take up a majority percentage of your salary cap, you're not going to have a good team. And that's my complaint about the salary cap is that there should be a player salary maximum. There's a minimum, there should be a maximum. Oh, I know it'll never happen because TV contracts are crazy, because people are crazy, obsessed with money. And yeah, we watch the games because we love football, and it's the players that, help make the game so entertaining. Well, I'm going to love my local team no matter who's on it, and whoever plays good, great. I don't want to pay you 60 million a year or 50 million a year or 40 million a year. You have a great wide receiver like Michael Thomas. Yeah, maybe he's worth 26 million a year. Maybe if he's on the field playing and he's catching 14 touchdowns and 1,400 yards, maybe he's worth that much. But how good is your team when you're paying somebody that much? Then you get in a situation like the Saints, where we kept kicking the can down the road on these contracts because we were in win now mode, and that window has closed. The Sean Payton era has closed. Hiring Dennis Allen as your head coach was meant to have a continuity within the organization. We wanted to maintain the culture, and the culture before in the locker room and stuff like that was great. And some say it's great now. That culture hasn't changed. The product on the field has changed, and nothing changes your culture more than losing. So the experiment of let's keep it the way Sean Payton would like it, even though Sean Payton isn't here, that experiment is over. We cannot fire Dennis Allen in the middle of the season. That's not going to do it. That's not the way to do it. And we can't be busting the whole team up in the middle of the season either. Trade deadline's over with. But we're going to have to eat it on these salaries, and we're going to have to get rid of some players. We're going to have to rebuild from the beginning, and we're going to have to do it probably starting next year. Even if this team plays out of their heads and manages a 8-9 record or something like that, which could see us in the playoffs. Uh, that's not worth keeping Dennis Allen around as a head coach. I think we've seen enough from what Dennis Allen can provide as the leader of this team. He's making questionable choices. I agreed with the Andy Dalton choice because the offense was producing. And ever since Dennis Allen put his foot down and said this is the way it's going to be, we've had some below average performances from the quarterback, awful altogether performances by the offense. And I blame play calling more than anything. And of course, the injuries to the offensive line, injuries to skill positions. You'd hope somebody's good enough, talented enough to come up and perform. Offensive line, it seems, is totally different. Yeah. So when the Saints draft, and every year in the first round, they usually get an offensive lineman or defensive lineman, and you wonder why. Well, this is why. And yeah, if I was building a team, I would spend a ton of draft capital in the trenches. Yes, I would. We'll see if giving away our first round pick hurts us or not when we see how Trevor Penning's career turns out. Because he was that first round pick. And, we jury's still out on that because he hasn't played enough. But if Trevor Penning turns into a great starter, if Trevor Penning, becomes the Saints' starting left tackle and does a great job for the next decade or so, then I'd say it was a good move. We drafted a great player. I know we need a quarterback, and there's a lot of quarterbacks in the draft this year. You never know. There's quarterbacks in every draft. We could have drafted high in certain drafts in the past and had our chance at people like, Luck or Andrew Luck. You'd luck out, right? You know, we tried for Mahomes. We were one pick short. We get Marshawn Lattimore instead. Now we need a quarterback here, and who's to say that our staff doesn't think, you know, Mitchell Trubisky is coming out of the draft was a great quarterback. And my God, if Sean Payton was here, maybe we would have drafted Kenny Pickett instead of Trevor Penning. You just never know how these quarterbacks are going to turn out. David Carr or Peyton Manning. Oh, shoot. Maybe we're the team that thinks David Carr is the way to go. So what I'm saying is you can get a franchise quarterback at any time. You just have to get the right quarterback. And of course, historically, Kurt Warner wasn't drafted. You know, Tom Brady was a late round pick. It's not impossible. But you better figure out what kind of offense you want, what kind of quarterback you want. Because right now, in my opinion, you have two different ones. You have Andy Dalton, who's like a late stage Drew Brees type that's going to be throwing the ball short. And if you take that away like Pittsburgh did, then you don't have much because he can't go deep. Or you can go with Jameis, who can throw the ball deep all day long, but you leave people wide open and he doesn't see them when they're in short routes wide open, or he's too inaccurate to get the ball to him. That's the kind of mess we have right now. The other quarterback we started the season with was Ian Book in preseason. That's a scrambler, a guy that runs around and scrambles, much like Taysom Hill could be if we knew how to use him at quarterback. So I don't. This offense has no identity. So what kind of quarterback do you want? You want the measurables, the strong arm. You want the guy that can run around, the guy that can escape pressure. Is that who you want? Are you looking right now at quarterbacks in college that are accurate, very accurate, that are quick with release, get the ball out? What are you looking for? I hope you figure it out because you got three different ones on the team right now and you don't know how to use any of them. You really don't. You had a little rhythm with Dalton for a while there. But yeah, that's over with. Right now, I say you don't tank, but you put Jameis Winston back in. He's got a patchwork offensive line to deal with. I think it's going to be ugly and awful. But you do it. Do it anyway. Jameis Winston is notorious for holding on to the ball 5 to 6 seconds. Let's see how he manages against anybody behind this offensive line. And as far as salary cap goes, yeah, there should be a maximum. There should be a maximum. You want to play football? You can make up to $25 million a year if you're really good at it. If you're really good at it. And that's it. So the greatest players in the league right now, Aaron Donald, right? Patrick Mahomes, uh, uh, the quarterback in Buffalo, Josh Allen, all these players, 25 million. That's what you make. Russell Wilson, well, there's a contract that went bad quick, huh? Right? Deshaun Watson, there's one. Didn't get to play yet, but he will against the Saints when we go to Cleveland. And we're going to see how a quarterback that's getting paid $45 million a year is going to perform on a team that has to handle that. Okay, no. In my opinion, Deshaun Watson, you want to pay him the most? $25 million. The Browns would have $20 extra million right now. You know what else would happen? If the max you could get paid was $25 million, you'd have your choice of which team to go to if everybody was willing to pay you. When everybody's motivated by money and we are watching awful products. That's my complaint. I'm with you on the you deserve a big chunk of it for the players and stuff. I'm with you on that. 25 million a year is a big chunk. Okay, pass some of those savings on to the fans. And does it have to cost that much to go see a game or to buy your jerseys? I'm never buying a Saints jersey again because every time I buy a Saints jersey, free agency takes the player away and then done. I'm just going to buy jerseys from now on of players that have already retired that spent the majority of their time with the Saints. That way, at least I know the jersey means something. Seriously, folks. Bobby Hebert was one of the best quarterbacks we ever had, believe it or not. And yeah, he wasn't drafted. We can find somebody better than Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. And we're probably going to have to pick a veteran quarterback as like a stopgap until we have the opportunity to draft. And I think we should draft a quarterback next year. I'm not looking at first round picks. I'm looking at quarterbacks that we can get in the fourth, fifth, sixth round if we have any of those picks left, the way this team's been mismanaged. Yeah, I'm looking at trying a bunch of them because one of them might stick. Doesn't have to be a first round quarterback that turns your franchise around. At this point, I just want somebody that can drive the car. All right, that's what I got. I'm Joe. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos like this. I will be previewing the upcoming Week 11 matchup between our Bless You Boys as we go home to the Caesars Superdome and host the Super Bowl champion, Los Angeles Rams. Until then, see you later. Bye.